Hello and welcome back to the LOE podcast. I'm your host this week, Gary, also known as Division 2 champion. And I'm thankful to say I'm not joined by Mark this week. I am joined by D2's own commentator, Dan, and his better half, Killer. Want to introduce yourself, boys?
Okay then.
I will describe myself as Mark's partner in crime. The slightly less street fighter of the two Ferrari drivers. I anger fewer people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's not hard.
It's not hard to do, to be fair. So basically, anyway, we're going to go through a quick season review. Well, I say quick. We'll make it as quick as possible. Review of the season in Division 2. Quite a entertaining season. I think we can all agree. And well, I think the best place to start is probably Brazil. I think we can just get that out of the way straight away.
Of course, you'd like to start there.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So in case anyone doesn't know or has been living under a rock, I did win. I didn't win the race. I won the championship though.
Wait, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was absolutely clueless.
Yeah, I definitely won. Definitely. 4 points in the end. I know what happened, Killer. You didn't have the greatest of races.
I think in terms of pace, my race was very good. It's just there were two incidents that knocked me back, and I was never able to recover from that because the safety car. Well, there wasn't a safety car to bring me back into play, so I was just running around at the back.
Yeah, it was a certain Red Bull. Well, I don't know if he caused the incident, but he definitely contributed to it.
I think the diplomatic way to summarise it is 3 cars into one corner doesn't go.
Yeah.
And me and Dylan came out, spun around, so I think leave it there. But I don't want to start apportioning blame for that. I've seen all 3 points of view, and I don't want to lay the blame at one driver. I think it is a case of 3 into 1 doesn't go.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely don't think any driver should be penalised from that. It's just unfortunate.
Cookie got penalised enough that race.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it wasn't the greatest races anyway. But I'd say I watched it back. It was meh. It was like for D2 standards, it was a solid 6 out of 10. Don't know what it was like commentating, Dan.
Well, at times, yeah, the fact that because of the early incidents on the safety car restart with you guys, obviously that just separated the field into different pockets, which made it less exciting than I think it could have been. But it definitely wasn't a bad race. Yeah. But yeah, definitely, if it weren't for that incident, I think it would have been a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. It did take a lot of cars out of play. And can I just say, I want to give a big shout out to McCrew, because I think your D2 title took the shine of what was a very good victory for him. He controlled that race from lap 1, and I don't think he ever did. He give the lead up at any point?
No,
he pit?
Well, only through pit stops.
Yeah. He definitely. That was a faultless race, and I love him forever for that. So that's his shout out. That's the only shout out he'll ever get from me. But let's go back a few months. Let's go back way back to the start of the season, and
this is completely disjointed. I don't know what's going on here.
I mean, because Brazil hadn't been talked about yet, so I thought it'd be good to just get that out of the way at the start. But way back when, Australia. I mean, the first race at D2.
It's a race I have absolutely no memory of as well.
It's a race you didn't finish.
I did 2 laps and crashed at turn 12, and I crashed in qualifying.
I think the Ferraris did a combined total of 4 laps.
3
maybe?
laps.
3
laps. 3 laps, yeah.
Jesus, fair play, boys. But Dan, you commented on that race. You did, I believe you did.
Yeah. Looking
back, first race of the season. Going into this season, who did you think was going to be the favourite? And were you surprised, at the start of the season, considering it was me and Cookie, or did you expect others to show up?
I expected you to be up there for sure, because I knew you were very dedicated ahead of the season and you really wanted it. I think the two, at the time, the two ILRT guys of Jekyll and Dan, because they dominated the pre-season race as well. Like, and I thought they'd be up there. And all the guys moving down from D1, I thought would be good if they put the time in, because obviously they came off the back of, let's be honest, rubbish seasons in D1.
Yeah.
So you didn't really know what to expect. But I expect, if I was to pick three who I expected to be up front, it'd be you, Gary, Dan, and Jekyll. I expected those three.
Yeah, I was quite surprised that Cookie was so quick after racing him in D1, and he couldn't finish a lap. I think he had the whole season. He probably finished about 10 laps, and that's not taking the piss. I'm being genuinely serious when I say that. And he definitely turned a form in D2.
I think me and you, Gary, are testament to the fact that when you go down in division, it can really renew your motivation.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Because I think the pair of us got about 40 points combined last season. And obviously Cookie was another one that came down, and we've all, you two much more than me, but we've all had a big uplift in motivation this season.
Yeah, it's been what's the word? I'm trying to think of a word to describe, but it definitely does give motivation back. It gives like a purpose, because racing in the midfield or at the back in D1 can take its toll, which it clearly did for the three of us, and racing at the front it's just a whole different perspective, and it just gives more motivation. But yeah, I don't want to go into the races in too much, because in the early races particularly, but first four races it was me, Cookie were the only two winners, and we didn't win another race till round, either of us didn't win another
11.
race 11, which is because at the start of the season it looked like it was going to be me and Cookie, and then everyone just started ramping up, and like I say, it was great to watch and to commentate over, because I mean it was just such a tight division. I think it's like one of the best divs we've ever had. I don't know what you guys think, but I think it was just amazing.
I'd put it. I think it'd only be topped by like the late PRL D1s.
Yes,
like
yeah.
15, 16. But yeah, apart from that, I don't think anything really.
I've raced in, I think, 11 seasons of this league now.
Yeah.
Or 10, 7 in PRL, 3 in LOE. And I agree with Daka in that the only season I can think of that would top this one would be season 14.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Of the PRL, when Mitch Emery won his first title. That was an insanely competitive grid.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a grid like that since now in any division we've had. So it's like a testament to the boys in Division 2. It's a shame that I'm likely to leave them, because it's been a lot of fun. But I just want to turn to the first real key moment of the season in the championship wise was Spain, where Cookie DNF'd.
Yeah.
And he was going in, I think he had a 12-point lead going into this race, and through no fault of his own he got taken out at the start and then later DNF'd. I felt like this was for me personally, this was a big moment. It's like first time ever leading the championship, and yeah, it's like this race gave me the belief that I could actually go and win the championship, and it set a trend really for Cookie in particularly.
Yeah, I think it was a big race for you mentally, because in Bahrain you came under a little bit of pressure at the start, but it was quite easy really. With the late safety car in that race, it's like you had to put up with a lot of adversity, and you managed to come through it. So I think that was a big race for you mentally, at a turning point, just to know that you can put yourself through there in those sort of circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. And it wasn't the greatest race for you, Killer.
Spain, that was the first race I looked like I was on to score points.
I think you got pole that race, didn't you?
I did get pole. That was the start of the Ferrari contra strategy. Yeah. And I was a little bit disappointed that I was as low down as I was, but I was quite happy. I was running in 6th, and I just had a disconnection, and I wasn't able to get back in.
A few people disconnected that race, unfortunately.
Up until that point, I couldn't really argue being on no points, but I think that was the first time I felt disappointed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And then moving on then, I mean, Monaco, it wasn't... I mean, Cookie probably... You could argue threw away that win, but I don't really know if he did, thinking about it. It's like, I think he... Did he crash under the safety car? He crashed with someone under the safety car, didn't he? Ocean, I believe. And then made the wrong strap, but like that was another mistake with him. But Carmentelis won that race. Yeah, that was
chaos.
Really... I think this was the start of realising that anyone in this division can win a race. It was manic. And then Killer U obviously DNF'd again. Surprise, surprise.
I did. Again, I was running while I was running 6th, and then I got damage under the safety car. And I've found a trend with me at Monaco is that once one thing goes wrong, I just mentally unravel to the point where I want to retire, even if I'm like 7th or 8th. And I think ended up after I drove a faultless race at the point, and then after I picked up damage, I think I picked it up again twice. I had to make 3 pit stops. I think that's the only time that race that I've retired in the pit lane, because I just could not be dealing with that Grand Prix.
No.
That's a good point that you make, and it's a bit off topic, but like Monaco, that track, you have to be in the right headspace to be able to drive it properly. If not, you're just going to be going into walls, just getting damage everywhere. So yeah, because I know that feeling. You drive a perfect race, and then in a couple of laps, just all unravels really. But of course, your season turned around in a couple races later that we'll get into a little bit later.
Finally, it took him long enough. But yeah, I don't want to go through race by race, but like I feel like Canada was another. I'm not trying to just focus on the championship. I'm trying to involve everyone, but obviously the championship does take priority. But I don't know if you remember, Killer, but that qualifying in Canada, I didn't
race Canada.
Oh, never mind then.
So I have no recollection. So just you two on this.
Yeah, I remember it raining in qualifying. I've never seen rain like that in a qualifying session, ever. Like you couldn't set a lap. You go through turn 1 and you were a second down. It was just torrential rain. But yeah, I think Cookie won that race on track, if I'm not mistaken. But he had 15 seconds of penalties, and just confirming that now. That was one too many. And then Jaco won, and this sort of kickstarted his chance of getting in the championship stand, really fighting for the championship, because he went on a good little run for those 3 races, but then tailed off towards the end. But,
it was a fleeting challenge, I think.
It was half-hard. It was half-hard, yeah. And then France, I know I say I don't want to go through every race, but France was a big race. It was a big race. I don't know, Killer, were you racing? I don't believe you were.
Yes.
Killer nearly won that race.
Yeah, Killer nearly won.
I just start with the qualifying session in itself was mental, because it said dry all the way through, or it said rain, or it might have said rain like right at the end of the session. And then we all went out, and within Jeff said,
do you want to say that again? You just broke up a little bit.
Yeah, your voice was crying out, yeah.
Hello? Say that again, Killer.
So qualifying means you went out on you went out on hards to start with, didn't you?
Yeah, I started the race.
You were completely unaware, and you ended up having to start on hards, which I can't imagine that was particularly nice.
No, it wasn't. But yeah, that early safety car really threw it up, because Cookie stayed out, and he definitely made. I think I made the wrong call as well by staying out, but we both messed up. But because he's decided to stay out for so long, he got caught up on traffic, and we all know what happened with him and Adri.
That got frosty. That
did get very, very. I was like, what were your guys' opinions on that? Just quickly. I mean, Was that like? For me personally, I think forget my words here. That showed where Cookie was at the first half of the season. He was quick, but he wasn't patient.
Well, my view of it, I watched that incident from as many different angles as possible, and Cookie shouldn't have went for that. I think we can all agree on that. It seemed like they can't, because Cookie basically blamed Adver entirely for that one. But if you look at it, they actually both moved towards each other quite a bit, which actually leads to the contact.
It was a strange one. I have to agree. I don't know. I never really felt like Cookie was fully to blame, but I never felt like Adver was fully to blame. But as a whole, I just felt like it showed where Cookie was at the first half of the season. That he was rapid, but he couldn't wait. Like he just wanted to go 90. And I remember we had that talk with him the other day or last week, I think it was, and he said second half season he was a lot more calculated in his decisions, and that definitely showed on track. But yeah, I don't think there's anything.
What was the Adri Cookie incident?
Cookie.
I'm just eager to have a look.
They were like, I think they were battling just outside the points or inside the points, and Cookie was on fresh softs, Adri was on like hards, I believe, and in the final sector, Cookie went for a bit of a crazy move, and they both ended up taking each other out, with neither of them scoring points, which I quite enjoyed because obviously helped me. So yeah, but I don't think there's anything else to talk about that race. I think the next race we should talk about is probably, I wouldn't say it's the greatest race this season. I say it was the greatest last 6 laps of the season.
Yeah, I know what you're on about.
Yeah, Silverstone. Jeez, what a race! What a race! Another race killer missed.
Yeah, I feel like you're just focusing on the races I didn't turn up at so far.
Well, your season didn't start like the last 6 rounds, so we'll get to you. But yeah, just Dan, what was it like commentating over that race? Because it was manic to race in. I can only imagine what it was like to commentate over.
Yeah, so the first 20 laps, it was a good race, I call it. You know, there was quite a bit of action, but it was easy to commentate. You know, could keep up with it. Then the last 6 laps after the safety car, I just couldn't, I was watching one thing and there was something else going on in the background. It was just manic. And of course probably had just the craziest result out of any of the races this season as well.
Yeah, with Adri winning, and he started 19th or 18th, I believe, and
well, there was only 17 cars, so
he started 16th. Yeah, he started 16th, second last. Yeah, and he somehow won the race. I mean, I remember racing. I remember Adri was in front of me, and Adri just kept taking out drivers in front of me, and I was just like, keep going, Adri, keep going. And yeah, I think that's probably the surprise or shock of the season was Adri winning. I don't think, definitely nothing else. But I think who else got podium? Yeah, Carmelis got podium in that race as well. I think he was unlucky not to win. I think he was winning on track. I think he won on track, but not with
got
pens.
a penalty.
Yeah.
Also, that was one of the only races where Dan got a penalty, where otherwise it would have gotten the race win.
Yeah, Dan would have won. Yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, I think going on to Germany then, this race was a bit manic. I think this was the first race that me and Cookie really, since Australia I believe, me and Cookie went wheel to wheel a little bit. And we had that instant, like I think 2 laps from the end, which was scary to say the least. I definitely shit my pants.
And then I remember Cookie going off at some point that race through Vettel corner.
I think
we
both went off because he went straight on to the gravel, and I looked behind me, and because I looked behind me, I went infield into the grass a little bit. It was just manic race, and yeah, me winning again. Well, not winning, but beating Cookie. That's what I mean by winning. But Dylan, I have to shout out Dylan because he wrote a Bible on this race. The only part I really care about in that thesis that he wrote, he won his first race, his only race, and for a man that won a race to come 13th in the standings is quite embarrassing, Dylan.
Yeah.
Quite embarrassing.
I always found Dylan something of an enigma because it was around France when I had that win on track that I took a much more vested interest in the division, and he always seemed to be one of these guys who had insane one-lap pace. For some reason, it never quite worked out in races. I know we'll get there, but Monza was another one where for those few laps it was me, Gary, and Dylan at the front, and we were pulling away. And I thought Dylan, was one of the shouts to win that race. And I don't know what happened to him, but he just faded away. And it felt like there were a couple of incidences through the season where he had the pace, but for some reason it never quite came together for him. And Brazil was another one.
Yeah.
Because of that turn 2 incident.
Yeah,
he's a strange one to me.
Yeah, well, Dan, you've commentated over him a lot this season. What do you think his problem is on track? Say whatever you want. Say whatever you want. You're immune. You're immune. It's the podcast. You can say whatever you want.
I don't want to be too harsh to him, man.
Just call him shit. It's fine.
I don't know, because it seems to be a different thing every week. Like he'll get an incident, or he'll just win it on his own. So he just needs to. I think he just needs to calm down in general. Yeah. Just like focus on his own stuff. I mean, he's got the speed. In my opinion, he could have been easy top 5 in the championship, or in his own right. But of course, that didn't happen. So he just needs to calm down on track. Just maybe give a bit more room to other cars. I'm not saying he's dirty at all. He's definitely not. But maybe just a bit more awareness of the overall race situation would help him out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. So yeah, the next race was Hungary. And I think this was the race that we really saw the Ferrari shithousery. I think this win. I feel this is the race that Ferrari primed into shithousing. I don't know if you'd agree, Killer, but from my perspective, this was. I hated you guys this race. I really did.
I think most people did.
I'm flattered, but it wasn't me. I didn't do anything wrong with that race. I started on mediums.
It was more the other guy. It was more the other Ferrari.
The other guy.
Yeah.
But it was the race where Marx earned his self-anointed title of Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Because he engaged in some, I think you could say, intense defensive manoeuvres against you and Harry, particularly. I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, there was. I was following you and Mark, and you seemed very frustrated behind him.
I remember you telling me after the race.
Yeah, you weren't pulling any manoeuvres, but you were just kind of sticking your nose where, just trying to. I think you were trying to rattle him a little bit, or tell him you were a bit aggrieved. But yeah. It was interesting. It was entertaining, I think, to follow you through that.
Yeah, it was definitely the beginning of something special with Mark. But Cookie took the win, and I've no shame in saying this was probably the most dominant win of the whole season. This in Mexico. I think you'd agree, Dan. Yeah. He was.
I think Mexico stands ahead in front of this one.
Probably for the pressure,
More champ, But to be honest, that was the best I saw him drive the entire season, because he actually had to do a lot of overtakes as well to get through traffic, and he did it perfectly. So didn't put a foot wrong. And it was weird for Cookie, because at the time the championship seemed to be between you and Dan, with Cookie sort of like hanging there in the background.
Yeah, which is mad
for quite a while, I think.
Yeah. But this race wasn't the greatest race for me, because I remember there was a pile up at turn 3, and then later on in the race was the late safety car, and just going into pit, and the game decided to change my wing with no damage, which I found very funny, because I think I would have got second that race, but ended up with 5th. But I don't think there was any other standout performances that race except Mark's driving. No, I mean, next race was. I think this race was Belgium.
Can I say it?
Yeah. You can go. You can say it.
The most important race of the season for the championship, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. Personally.
What race do you think?
I think it was Singapore, because it was that much close to the end, and it was the point where you had your biggest championship lead.
Yeah, that's true.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to Singapore.
There's quite a few you could say, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to Singapore, but this race was manic, because I remember Mark in qualifying blocked me, and after what he did last week I was quite angry with him, but then I realised it wasn't actually him, it was his AI car. But yeah, there's only one real thing we can talk about when it comes to this race, and that's Cookie spinning under the safety car. I mean, if that happened to me, I'd be heartbroken. But it didn't. But yeah, anyway, but like, this was, for me, this was the game changer, mentally and points wise, because I think Cookie was winning by 1 point going into this race, I believe, and he was winning. I was like 5th at one stage, and I say he was in cruise control. Probably thought it was his, but yeah, we all know what happened. His pedal broke with 2 laps to go. I just wanted to, what do you guys think, do you think that guy's really like had a mental effect on Cookie for the rest of the season, or no?
I wouldn't say for the rest of the season, but the next few races. Because obviously he was driving that mentality of, I've got to rush things, and obviously you saw him making quite a few mistakes. But I think once he changed his mentality later on, we saw him like pick it up again. But I wouldn't say the rest of the season, just the next few races.
I think he was possibly born out in, like you say, a couple of his manoeuvres. They weren't desperate, but they were, you know, he had this drive of I need to succeed in every single race, and that showed. But I don't think it mentally knocked him in terms of his pace or confidence, because those 3 races, Japan, US, and Mexico, he was near faultless, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because Japan, he only lost on penalties.
Yep.
So he went and won 3 races in a row on track, and so Mexico was, in my opinion, his race of the season.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. But just quickly on Italy, there wasn't much action. We know you won, Jake. We don't really care.
I care.
Can we talk about the controversy at the end? Because
I was convinced I won. I thought me and Nico got a 1-2. To be fair, I nearly binned it before that though. I nearly crashed into...
Last corner, yeah.
That gave me a heart attack. I looked back and saw you sideways into Car Mentalist.
I thought Car Mentalist hit me. I was like, oh my god. That was... But, yeah, I think because he lagged out, Killer lagged out, that's why our timers were a bit off. So,
my timer was off the whole race.
Yeah, once I realised... yeah, go on, sorry.
So, can I just say, I think that is probably the best race I've ever driven in an F1 league. The consistency of my lap times and the fact I did not get a warning all race, I was in. I mean, I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I'm not usually one to do that, but I was in awe of myself after that race. I was like,
you're looking in the mirror and you're like, well, fucking done.
Look at this guy.
But, yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. But like there was another couple of talking points in that Monza race before we move on. Obviously, Cookie spun in the Della Roger chicane. Is that what it's called? I think it's called that.
Second chicane.
Second chicane,
yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, and from lap 1 in the lead, and yeah, and then he did amazingly to actually get back into a net P1 with hards, and I think there was 4 laps to go with a safety car. And,
yeah, something like that.
There were 2 laps when the safety car went in.
Yeah, and he decided to pit for softs.
For the life of me, in the party with Mark, I was absolutely incredulous at that. I could not understand why he pitted, because he knew me and Gary wouldn't pit. Like we were going to be on old tyres as well, so I know his were older, but I think he
was unreal on those hards.
Yeah. I think he would have lost far more by pitting than he would have stayed out. If he'd stayed out, he might have got 5th or 6th at worst.
I think he could have still won that race if he stayed out.
Yeah.
I think he definitely would have got a podium.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, yeah.
I think he might have won the race on the basis of who was behind him, because I know me being me, in that position, I would not have risked an overtake unless there was, you know, like a 3-car widths open door for me to go through. I wouldn't have gone for that. Because you know me, Gary. I'm Mr. Cautious.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I feel like this was one of those another of those. I don't want to make this like a hate thing on Cookie or like point out his flaws, but this was another mistake you could probably say within the championship, and it's probably something that he's looked back and he's talked about. But yeah,
I think that's the defining. There's been the defining distinction between you and the championship. You've been slower.
Yeah, I can.
In places, quite a lot slower. Yeah. But Cookie's made more mistakes.
Yeah.
So I think USA and Brazil, you were nowhere near Cookie's pace. I mean, no disrespect by that. I think that is the difference between you. You're slow, but he makes more mistakes.
Slow is maybe not the right word, but
slower.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a disservice to Gary as D2 champion. But you get my meaning.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, totally, I understand that. Yeah, and but moving on then to Singapore. This was another. I keep saying a big moment. It was a big moment because Dan won the race, which brought him straight back into the championship. Killer, you were on the alternate strategy with your best mates.
Which I maintain to this day was the correct strategy. I could not for the life of me see why anyone would have started on medium.
Without safety car, you probably win that race.
I had a 6-second lead when safety car came out, and I wasn't being caught really.
No.
So I felt like. I mean, I should probably feel more aggrieved about that race than I did. So I remember on commentary, Jackie, you said in the last lap when Dan passed me, "Oh, Killer must be so gutted." The truth of it is, like, I said to Mark, "Oh, Dan's got me here," and I just didn't fight him. Looking back on stream, I probably should have done, but I just let it go because I thought I don't want to risk losing
honestly,
the point.
Your defense against Dan was genuinely one of my highlights of the season. Like,
that means a lot. It does when you've watched all season, every single lap of the season. For you to say that, it is very nice to hear.
This definitely was. I don't think there's any argument. This was race of the season in Division 2, probably. There was me, you, and Dan battling out with. I don't think the gap ever, till the last lap, I think the gap was 1 second for like 12 or whatever laps it was, and I remember driving, I nearly hit the wall a couple of times behind you guys, but
But I remember one massive oversteer moment you had that let Dan through, but like, you just kept out of the wall.
I can't believe how I kept that out, but me and Dan said after the race, we were driving, I felt like we were on ice, like there was literally no grip. I don't know how Killer it was driving, but
it was worse for me because I got wing damage about 10 laps from the end, so I was driving with a damaged car. I'm not sure I would have still won the race even without that because of the SC, but I think it would have. I might have lasted longer, but I lasted pretty much as long as I could have done.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised neither of you have mentioned the big championship thing in this race, which was me and Cookie colliding off the line.
Well, yeah, I actually forgot about that. I can't believe I forgot about that. Yeah, I think that was your fault. I won't lie.
I agree.
Yeah. The problem Cookie had though was he couldn't report you, because if he reported you, I was likely to get ahead of you then, which meant he was losing out. Which that must have been just a horrible position to be in.
Yeah.
I mean, I messaged him afterwards to say sorry, and he was like, "I can't report you."
Oh my god. But yeah, that was another. I mean, Cookie. It's not. I'm not saying they're not all his fault. Definitely not. Like Cookie.
No, this one was my fault. I pincered him onto the curb. And
yeah. Oh yeah. I think it was your fault, but
not deliberately. Just want to say that as a disclaimer.
I mean, Dylan is after saying that he took out Mark in a race on purpose before, so I mean, you can say it now if you took him out on purpose, but yeah, it's like being in his shoes. I'd be so annoyed because if you take away the incidents that he had no control over, I don't think there was many. He still can't look back and be like, I should have won this championship. To be fair though, now to say that though, if this didn't happen in Singapore, he probably wins it. So I'm just talking out my arse at this stage. But yeah, that was just I think Dan, that brought Dan straight back in. Surprisingly, like, the guy just wouldn't leave us alone. It was crazy how he was always there.
I think at that point you'd pulled out a gap of like that was bigger than a race win fast lap basically. So it was like I think it was over 30 points to either any of them, that brought Dan within that range.
I think at one stage I was beating Cookie by 42 points. I think this after this race I think it was 42 points, and he was third. He was behind Dan. So Cookie did amazingly well to pull it back that much. But yeah, Russia wasn't. I don't know. You commentated. Was it? I can't remember it being that crazy. I know the weather was a bit mad, but it wasn't the most dramatic races of the season.
It probably wasn't, but of course, the thing I remember of it is one of the surprisingly few times you and Cookie actually battled it out on track for a surprisingly lowly position in the end.
Yeah, the rain definitely screwed us over with the strategy.
Yeah.
Couldn't really do much, but I wasn't too mad that we were battling for lower positions because he wasn't gaining that much on me. But why won that race? And I think that made it. I don't know how many many different people won a race. 1, 2, 3.
I think it was 8 or 9.
Yeah, I think he was like the 7th or 8th person to win a race, which is mad. But Killer, your race in there wasn't great.
I had 2 instances. Lap 1, I got taken out by someone. I have no idea what happened. But the thing that like I grown at is that I started 12th on mediums, which I started 11th on mediums. The way it turned out is I got turned round at turn 2. He went and won the race by doing medium inter. That could easily have been my win. It did turn out that way in Japan, because Japan I started 12th and went medium inter and won. But that one aches a little bit because you don't usually feel like you start 12th and should have won the race. But
in Division 2 that was different.
Yeah.
But and then Japan. Now this was when Cookie started to charge, and if I won't lie, at this point I thought I had it wrapped up. And
understandably.
And I definitely got reality check after this race, and I think Cookie was quite unlucky not to actually win this race because he had a pen, didn't he, Killer? That's how you won.
Yeah, because obviously I said I did medium inter, and he but by the time the rain started, he'd already made that pit stop back up on me.
He got quite lucky though with the safety car as well.
Yeah, and if it stayed dry, he would have pulled ahead of me. There's no chance I could stay with him even with DRS because he was that much quicker. But for some reason, in the rain, it just didn't quite fall his way, and he wasn't able to get, I don't think, more than a second away from me.
Yeah,
that's quite surprising actually, because Cookie he's really quick in the wet, like really quick. So I'm surprised that he didn't actually manage to pull you away, because I remember he's always asking for wet races, always.
He didn't even make any mistakes either. He just couldn't pull away.
Yeah, pad.
Yeah, pad hacks.
Yeah.
That race I remember as being like Matty's big chance as well.
Yes, Matty.
And he made a mistake out of 130R, I think, which
he was so lucky not to retire from that.
I feel so bad for him because him and McCrew were like the 2 people that you'd think should have won a race this season. And McCrew obviously got his last race this season, but that was Matty's biggest chance. But he'll be back next season, I'm sure, because he's too quick. He's rapid. That win will come for him soon enough. But Mexico.
My favourite subject.
This was an interesting race between me and you. I wasn't pissed that you reported me. I was like, uh-oh.
I mean, I was really, really angry after that race. Not so much at you, just the fact that I said to you the other day, I was a net second.
Yeah.
Because there were 6 laps left or whatever it was, and I was behind you. I had 1 warning, I think. you had a 3-second time penalty. And I was like, I'm second. And, but in that point I was in a really close fight fourth in championship, and I was like, I'm going fourth in championship. And then the safety car happened, which angered me a lot for reasons I won't say here. But
also, Super Gamer, you crashed out on purpose.
Yeah. What Gary said. I didn't say it.
I wish you had it on stream, Dan. I wish you saw it.
I'm just cut to Super Gamer randomly.
Yeah, just randomly at the back. Yeah. But yeah, it messed us both over, because whatever we did, we were gonna lose out. If we pit, we were gonna lose out. We stay out, it's likely they're gonna get ahead of us. And Cookie was like 18 seconds. This was dominant. I actually agree with you now. This was probably his most dominant race, ahead of Hungary.
When you consider how far ahead he finished, given the safety car went in like 3 laps from the end as well. Firstly,
I got done for weaving, which I didn't really understand. I don't think I did too bad. I wasn't weaving when they were. Personally, I didn't think they were close enough. But anyway, I got panned for that, and then
I was directly behind you, and my opinion of it is, as a neutral, it could have gone either way. You could easily have penalised you for it. You could easily have let it slide. It's just your interpretation. I didn't look that aggressive, but
yeah. Oh no, I don't think it wasn't dangerous. I think that's a point as well. I just love how the first person to frame you was your own teammate. Like in the party.
Me go to the party. Go Gary, no. It's like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? I had the 2 QPR boys telling me to stop weaving. I was like, I'm not weaving. But and then obviously me and you had our crash, which it was quite a weird one. But
you just went too deep into the corner. That was
definitely
long short of it.
But when I realised,
I saw red after that because I was raging very vocally to Mark in the party, which. But then I was down to like 13th or 14th, whatever it was, and then I had Daniel behind me, and
I've never heard it said like that before.
Well, next season on commentary, make sure you say it.
Daniel.
Into the stadium section, the little left-hand hairpin, Daniel hit me. He pushed me, went too deep into the corner. And I was just like, I've had it now, with a lot more swear words. So, because of my collective anger at Unity Super Gamer, when it came, I was down the pit straight, I was about like 8 tenths behind him, but I was having that place by turn 3, whether he wanted to give it to me or not, and no matter how far back I was or not. And I got it courtesy of some of mine and his front wing. I'm surprised he didn't report me for that, but I was just so angry. It's the first time I've ever been like, I don't care, mate. I'm passing you.
I remember messaging you after the race to apologise, and you were so annoyed. I was actually afraid to talk to you. You were that annoyed. I was like, alright, I'm just going to leave him alone and hope he doesn't report me. And,
wait, it was you, Super Gamer, and Daniel, all like...
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Super Gamer was supposed to deliver it, but all 3 of you wronged me. So...
That was a big race, big race in the title, because Cookie gained like 14 points on me that race, even more.
No, it was more.
No, it was 17.
17 points. And then I was like, well, I am in trouble. I was like, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, really tightened it up. Yeah, it was the first race where he got within a win of you. I think.
Yeah. I think like USA hurt more, because I'm moving on to USA anyway, but USA, because me personally, I felt like I had the pace to win the race, but I let myself down in qualifying, and then I obviously got stuck behind Dylan, who just didn't want to leave me alone. And Cookie took another win, and it was deserved, because McCrew threw everything at him. McCrew was so quick, and Cookie was able to cope under the pressure. I think one more lap he might have lost it, but I don't think it really mattered, because
McCrew had a penalty.
So I don't think it would have mattered much. But I don't think, besides the championship, I don't think much happened that race because it was a pretty dead race. I can't think of any team.
Well, there was Dylan pissing you off the whole way through it.
Dylan, he didn't text me after the race. He's like, "Why you defend so much?" I was like, "Why you attack so much?" I'm clearly quicker than you. Just stay in my slipstream, and we'll catch McCrew and fucking Cookie. But yeah, that obviously didn't happen. And then obviously, I think the gap was 7 points then going into the last race of the season, which we've back where we started, boys. Finally, yeah, last race of the season was 7 points, and I won't lie, I didn't say this to anyone, but I thought I lost the championship. After USA, I felt like I lost it. I had the resignation form as an organizer filled out and everything. I was ready to leave. I was done. But yeah, luckily enough, it didn't happen, and the rest is history. So that's the division. I don't think there's anything else you guys want to go over this season. We're not done yet. We have a little bit left to do. But is there anything else you want to talk about the season before we move on?
Not for me. No.
Dan?
I think we've said everything that needs to be said, to be honest.
I like how you preface this by saying, "Oh, I don't want to do a race by race review." This is exactly what we did.
I'm sorry, boys. I'm sorry it's long, and yeah. But I couldn't. I just looked at them. I couldn't think of what races were bad and what races were good. It's Division 2 at the end of the day. But yeah, that's a season review anyway. But I'd just like to give a quick shout out to Dan, who's here, and Verstappen for comms this season. It's been fucking unreal. It's been a pleasure watching them back, and hope you guys are doing it next season. But
thanks very much.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. But just before we finish, we had a few drivers that we asked to send in their season reviews. I just want to quickly go over McCrew. Well done on your win. Where were you for the rest of the season? Dylan, the season didn't end in Germany, just so you know. Carmentalis, congrats on Monaco. See you in D3 next season. And who else sent one in? Nico. Even Ruben's Bar. No, I can't say that. Yeah, shit. Wait. Nico. Thanks for being a number 2. I ruined the joke. But yeah, boys, that's the season review, and we'll be back in 1 minute. Right then. Moving on now to the last part of the podcast. We've had an anonymous driver send in. I mean, I don't know how you describe these, but he's named drivers and he's just put a few words after them. Basically, that's what it is. Right. So, starting off with myself, Gary. Apparently, now boys, you can judge on these. I am the most unsociable wanker in parties, but I have the best Darth Vader impression. I mean,
yeah, I'm getting some Darth Vader right now, to be honest.
Oh shit, sorry.
I can. Well,
but yes,
I do agree with the second part.
Oh, I fully agree.
Not so much the first part. Yeah.
I don't know what you're like during races though, so I can't comment on the first part. I imagine they mean you're unsociable during races.
Yeah, I don't really talk during the races. Yeah, that's fair enough. I can't really argue with that. But excuse me. Next one is Cookie. Excuses FC. That's quite harsh.
I don't agree with that.
No, I don't agree with that. Yeah.
Cookies never made excuses. He's tried to chip a few points off you by running to the steward, but I don't think he's ever. I can't think of him ever making an excuse.
No,
I think he's a sound lad.
Can you?
He's never made an excuse that isn't valid.
No.
Yeah. I don't think he's ever tried to blame someone else for something he's done.
Next one is Dan.
Pedals.
Yeah, pedals is what. Yeah, pedals.
Pedals is the only one.
Yeah. Next one's Dan. Safety cars gave this man a career. I mean, that's just facts. I mean, I can't really go in on Dan because he was very upset with me last week when I said that I wouldn't practice as much if I was racing against him. So Dan, you're a great driver. You're really good. Well done, Dan. This is my favourite one. Next is Nico. Like Rubens, But even Ruben's got a win.
Oh, jeez. That one's just cold.
That one is hilarious. Now
But Nico's going to win D2 next season.
Yes,
calling it out.
I told him after the season, like, you're going to win D2 next season. Definitely.
You said that next season was going to be Nico versus me. I don't have the spine for a title fight. I'm too weak.
Neither did I. I didn't think I did.
Like you put me in a title fight. I'm just gonna. I'll stay at the same level. That's my problem. Like other people will surpass me, and I'll just stay 7th with 2 wins a year. That's how I am.
Right. Speaking of you, you're up next. Killer.
Oh, great.
Fast when it suits him.
I mean,
surely it always suits me to be fast.
I mean, let's look at the first 8 races of the season. I don't see you.
That's true. Because to be honest, like 1 to 8, very busy with uni stuff, and then Corona hits, and suddenly I'm winning races.
I mean, I have to say, this guy's got a spot on. He has. Fair play to him.
I would have been more deprecating than that. I would have been more insulting to me. I think saying I just practice when I can be asked is quite kind, to be honest.
Yeah. Next one is YHYY. Probably only drives his car in real life when it's raining out. I mean, he is the wet master. Him and Rick are the wet masters, as we like to call them.
I'm going to be harsh here, but what he's like is he's like an irritating little cockroach. You cannot get rid of him. It doesn't matter what you throw at the race. If you throw rain, safety cars, any number of broken front wings, he's there in like 4th place. You cannot get rid of him. Like there could be 68 penalties in a Grand Prix. He'll have none of them. He just batters everything off him. Cockroach.
Glad you got that off your chest.
You just had to vent that.
After Japan, I was like, "Who's in 4th? I'm in the fight." YHYY. Oh, this is easy. and then he goes and like has amazing couple of really good races in USA and Brazil, to be fair.
Next one this is a good one as well. Carmentless puts his trousers on before his underwear for the ultimate strap.
That's not me, to be honest.
I mean, that is just gold. Next one's McCrew. Practice. That's it. Practice.
Practice question mark.
Practice question. I thought that would be mine. I'm glad it's not. And this one as well. This is for Dylan. As much composure as Stevie Wonder wakeboarding.
Wow.
I mean, that's unreal. Oh my god. Next was Mark.
God.
Defends like John Wick after his dog died.
Oh, that's great.
These are good. Next one's Matty. Biggest underachiever since Freddie Adu. Football people will know. Next one's Rick. Came to D2 to stat pad all his all-time stats.
I mean,
he didn't really. If anything, he's made them worse.
Yeah.
Rick, I still haven't forgiven you for Brazil. I still haven't forgiven you. J. Cole, ultimate shy house.
Well, I disagree, but
yeah.
J. Cole's had a really weird season.
He has up and down like a yo-yo.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say up and down like a yo-yo.
It was up, then down.
Yeah, then down.
Yeah, the down.
It's been down since Hungary, to be honest.
Yeah, it is, to be fair. Next one is DD Daniel. DD
Daniel.
Daniel.
DD Dan Who. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, he's put in brackets. Never seen him on track.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have Super Gamer racing in a different Le Mans class. I find that quite funny.
I don't think I've seen Super Gamer finish a race, to be honest.
Oh no, he has. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he got like comment. You think he has the same amount of points as Maledictus? Poor Mala. And finally, the guy who put this in, I will keep him nameless, but he can say his own name if he wants to later on when this gets released. He just put the goat emoji beside his name. I mean, I disagree. He's a bit of a cunt.
Also, you know the driver, so do you
Yeah, I
want
know
to just
exactly.
drop it here?
Yeah, I can. I mean, yeah, we'll just say who it is.
I don't mind. It's up to them.
Yeah.
I have an idea
Morgan.
of who it is.
It's B. Morgan. There you go.
He was one of the people I thought it might be.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Well, thanks Ben for that. That's the most what's the word? The biggest contribution you've given to this league since you've joined. And yeah. Well, that rounds up the podcast, boys.
Wow.
This has been a shit show. I apologise. This is what it's like when I don't have Mark with me.
A shit show and a pleasure, I would like to add.
Yes. Hopefully
Yes.
I do have Mark with me next time, so he can host.
And not us.
Well, I don't think you guys are going to want to do Division 4. No offence to Division 4, you just don't know anything about it.
I've never watched D4 race because it was on at the same time as ours.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But,
Sorry,
yeah.
no offence to D4. I'm sure it's a marvellous league.
It is. But yeah, that rounds up. I've been Gary, and I'm happy to have Dan and Killer on with me. Until next time, goodbye.
So yeah.
Bye.